pase, pierna derecha, directo al arco, ¡golazo! ¡Golazo!
The world of football with a soccer perspective. This is Soccer Today with Duane, Rollins and Kevin Laramee, live on the Sports Podcasting Network.
And good day, good night, and welcome to Soccer Today for September 29th, 2017. And this Sunday, October 1st, 2017, in Mississauga at the Hershey Center, Canadian Arena Soccer will be born on the pitch. And to talk about this project, we have on the line technical director of Canadian National Team in Arena Soccer, Mr. Hector Marinaro. Hector, how you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
Hector, arena soccer is something that we haven't really seen at a high level for a while in these parts. Just talk a little bit about what you like about this game and why you think it's a valuable component to the sport, a valuable style of the sport.
You know, I grew up obviously playing outdoor soccer like everybody else, but the arena game brings a lot more excitement, a lot more energy, fast-paced action, a lot more goals, and you know, it's an exciting game. It combines a little bit of basketball, hockey, soccer, and it's just nonstop entertainment for the average soccer fan.
Fair enough. So Canada's playing this. This is a national team situation. Give us a bit of a background on what the world arena game looks like, because I follow the game very closely at a lot of different levels, and I wasn't even aware that there was an international version of the game. So could you just give us a bit of a background on what the international game looks like? What's the tournament? What are you aspiring for? Is there a World Cup? Tell us a bit about what the international game looks like.
Yeah, the goal of our organization right now is to prepare for the 2018 World Cup in Mexico, which is, obviously we're launching on Sunday with the game against Mexico. Obviously we're a new franchise, a new program, representing Canada, and the long-term goal is to, represent Canada in all the future World Cups starting in 2018. There's a lot of countries that play in the Arena World Cup, and like I said, we're excited to launch this project and really look forward to competing in the 2018 World Cup in Mexico.
When we're looking at the landscape of arena soccer, or indoor soccer as it is known in the United States, you have MISL, and you have big teams like the Tropics and St. Louis and other teams as well, with players from Canada, with the likes of Federico Mugen and other example as well. How important were the success of those players in the last few years down south to the creation of this team?
It was very important. Obviously, we've got a solid core of 7 or 8 players that will be playing Sunday that play in the MASL. A couple players from Milwaukee, a couple players from Florida. Our goalkeeper Josh is one of the top goalies in the MASL right now. And having watched him the last couple of days, his ability with his feet is amazing. He's got just as much technical ability as a lot of the field players. And, he likes to venture forward. And, in my opinion, he's one of the top indoor goalies right now in the entire world.
When we're looking at the spectrum of the game, Hector, we have, of course, outdoor on grass, the typical 11 versus 11. There's other versions. There's futsal, there's beach soccer, there's arena soccer. Where is the place of arena soccer in your mind, and what could be its contribution to the game as a whole?
In my opinion, the arena game is by far the most entertaining. Futsal, the ball rolls out of bounds a lot. Beach soccer, the game is much slower because people are, physically running in the sand. But with the arena soccer, you got the boards, you got the glass, and it's just nonstop action. And, having watched beach soccer and futsal and outdoor soccer, and, you compare arena soccer to all those sports, the fast-paced action, the multiple goals. It's just the most, in my opinion, the most entertaining form of soccer around these days.
Hector, you mentioned some of the players on this Canadian team. Tell us a little bit more about the stars, but and expand into Mexico as well. That fans will see when they head out to the Hershey Center on Sunday to watch this game.
Yeah, like I said, Ian Bennett was the number 2 scorer in the Massel last year and just missed out winning the scoring championship in the Massel. I think finished second in league MVP voting by a very narrow margin. He will be representing us on Sunday. I talked about Josh, our goalkeeper, another solid player. There's quite honestly, there's a lot of talent, and I'm just excited to see these guys in action against Mexico on Sunday. And I think the fans that come out on Sunday are really going to be pleased at the quality of the Canadian team. We've got young kids. We've got experienced players. We've got a couple of 17-year-olds that are going to be on the roster. It's an exciting time for Canadian arena soccer.
Now, when you're talking, most of us are used to watching the game at a lot of different levels, and I think a lot of us have seen indoor arena soccer in the past, but some younger listeners out there may not have seen it. Can you just sort of describe the game itself and talk about any rule differences that might be there that we don't see in other codes of the game?
You know what? Very similar to hockey. There's penalties where you can get a blue card, so you got to go sit in the penalty box, and you got a power play. If anybody kicks the ball out of bounds within their final defensive third, then there's a free kick at the top of the arc, which is an awesome scoring opportunity. But other than that, all the rules are pretty much the same as soccer, with FIFA rules. And but the major change would be the penalties and the ability to go on a power play. Penalty killing, just very similar to hockey.
Hector, as technical director of this Canadian national team, what is your duties, and can you give us a bit more about your background, especially in the arena soccer?
Yeah, I grew up in Mississauga. I moved to the United States in 1983 when I was 18 years old. I played 21 years of professional indoor soccer in the United States with Cleveland, Minnesota, and Los Angeles. And as the technical director, my main role and the way I look at it is I'm here to help Giuliano Oliveira, the head coach, with anything he needs. Give him all the best opportunities to put the best team on the field. I'm here to help Phil Yanati, the general manager, with player selection and which players we feel are going to give us the best opportunity to win on Sunday. And so I'm pretty much just overseeing, helping Giuliano, helping Paolo Ciccarelli, our assistant coach, Phil Yanati, and just kind of helping everybody in whatever aspect they need to make us successful for Sunday.
You mentioned the selection of players, and I'm wondering, what's the player pool? What does it look like? Where do you draw the potential players from? Do you go just with experienced arena players, or fringe, maybe 11v11 outdoor players, professional level? Where do you draw a majority of?
Quite honestly, it's a combination of everything. We had a couple of tryouts. We had invitation tryouts. We had open tryouts. And mostly right now we focused on Ontario. So a lot of the kids, a lot of the players that you're going to see on Sunday are local Canadian kids from Ontario. We have 7 or 8 Canadians that play in the Massel, play in indoor soccer in the U.S., making a living playing this sport. And then we have a lot of local kids that are that come through the tryouts, and a lot of, Phil Yanati uses a lot of his expertise with the local market and, local soccer scene. in finding players. And we have a player pool of about 24 players right now. Out of the 24, we're going to select 18 that will be dressing on Sunday. And then we'll sit down with Jules and figure out the best lineup to go with and hit the ground running on Sunday.
You mentioned the league a little bit. I'm curious if you could just give us some more details on what that looks like. I have an understanding that there might be an indoor team permanently in Mississauga in the near future as well. Could you tell us a little bit about the overall structure of indoor soccer right now in North America?
Right now, there's about 20 teams in the MASL, and that includes Mexico, the U.S., and hopefully Canada very soon. There's a lot of Mexican flair to the league. I think there's 3 or 4 teams in Mexico itself. You got the San Diego Sockers, the Baltimore Blast, teams that I played against years ago, the Milwaukee Wave, which Giuliano Olivero is the head coach of, Syracuse Silver Knights. So it's kind of spread out all over North America, and how they schedule games, they play more of a regional schedule, with teams in the West playing against teams in the West. And then at the end of the year, there's a big playoff competition to select the overall champion every year.
All right. Tickets start at $20. For $50, you can get a VIP Platinum event to pass, which will give you a meet and greet, in-seat service, access to a premium lounge, a scarf, and obviously a great view of the game. Good luck in the game, Hector, and we do thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you. And I will say the Hershey Center in Mississauga is the perfect venue for indoor soccer, with the lower bowl, 6,000 seats, and then luxury suites on the top. And it's the perfect arena to come watch a game. There's not a bad seat in the house. So if and for $20 a ticket, up to $50, it's hard to buy that kind of entertainment for that cheap of a price.
All right. Thanks again, Hector, and good luck on Sunday.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
You are listening to Soccer Today. Follow us on Twitter at SoccerTodaySPN and like our Facebook page, facebook.com/Sports Podcasting Network. You can find the podcast version of all the shows we do on iTunes, Apple Podcast, Google Play Store, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and anywhere you get your podcast.
And we're back on Soccer Today. And Duane, the different iteration of this game always fascinates me. From FIFA, because it's FIFA Day. It's FIFA Day today, Duane. It's FIFA Day. But for the first time in forever, I'm too busy and I can actually have time to play until Tuesday. So I guess this makes me officially an adult.
Well, maybe we all have to cross that bridge someday, and one day I think I might as well. But nonetheless, that is unfortunate. In terms of the arena game, it's 4:00 start. We never mentioned there. You get the tickets, obviously, your usual places. What's your background on an indoor? Did you ever have a chance to watch it, Kevin?
I remember when the Impact were just an indoor team. Remember when it wasn't at the end of the 90s, early 2000s, I imagine? Early 2000s, the A-League was they were playing in one league, and that league folded, and they were just an indoor league at this point, and Montreal just was an indoor team for that 1 year. And it was kind of weird. I played, actually, indoor. I played both style. I did play some futsal in high school. I did play some more. It wasn't with boards and stuff, but it was still legal. It would have hit the wall, so kind of works. And the goals were the same way, encrusted in the wall, so it was kind of weird. But it's all correlatable skills, in my opinion. And whatever iteration of this game exists, if it creates almost a fringe soccer industry on the side, in the United States, there's a circuit of teams and leagues that's been there for years, and there's many instances. I'm just going to talk about what I know a little bit more. A player that I've been following for a long time in the circle here in Montreal, plays in the PLSQ, Federico Mugen, plays as well in the MASL and MISL, whichever, and plays for the Tropics now. And in the summer, comes play in the PLSQ in Montreal, which is a semi-pro / Division 3. Some players do get a salary, and he's that type, Brazilian origin for Federico Mujan, made a life here in Quebec, and still finds a job every winter playing in the indoor league down south in the United States, and he's a star in that league, and he wins the Golden Boot or close to it every year. But there's like almost a parallel industry in the world of soccer with a different iteration of this game. So I'm not against it. I think it's a supporting product to the beautiful game. If you're in a part of the world where Baltimore, they don't have a Major League Soccer team, they don't have a professional team at that level, and especially in the winter, you want to watch soccer, well, you got an option there.
Yeah, look, a lot of people kind of make fun of soccer, they might call it, soccer and hockey combined.
Especially like when there's a European seeing a blue card and people on penalty box like, what's going on? What's this? You got to look at it a bit differently.
It is an entertainment product. I think there's that aspect to it. Look, I'm older than Kevin, as you all know, so I remember the old MISL days. Back when I had my satellite dish growing up, that was one of our favorite things. We used to watch those games all the time on TV. They were a fun sort of entertainment, action-packed kind of version of the game. So I've never had a problem with it. And the only issue I have I don't have any issue with it. My only concern with them trying to put this new team in the league in Mississauga is the fact that it's in Mississauga, and I think that you're missing out on a lot of your market when you put it out there, because really, I think you want to. It's hard to get to the Hershey Center from Toronto if you don't have a car, and that's that.
I agree with you in a way that you don't want the efforts of this project, and especially in the Mississauga team, to maybe hinder the potential of a Premier League team of the original type of soccer in the area, right? You don't want those two projects to battle against the same type of supporters, fans, and just split the resource. You want the resources to be plentiful for both, but you don't want to have to split those resources.
No, precisely. But what you mentioned before is something that I think those that make fun of this sport a little bit might miss out on, is it does ultimately benefit the 11v11, the outdoor, the true version of the game, in the sense that it allows fringe professionals a career of sorts. They remind me, when I worked out west for the year, I covered the professional rodeo quite closely, which is, I've had a strange little career sometimes when it comes to that stuff, but I covered the professional rodeo circuit for 1 year. And those guys, those professional cowboys, they remind me a little bit of the type of player that you're talking about. They're nomads in the fact that they just roam from place to place to place just to scrape together a living, but they do it out of love. They do it because they love their sport. The rodeo guys are never going to get famous, and they aspire to maybe, be that one in a million.
Few. There's like 3-4, right? There's like 3-4. Like I mentioned Federico Mujan, which may be the most famous team. It's basically the grind of a soccer player in the lower levels, but making a successful living out of it. And parlaying with soccer schools and combines and other projects related to the world of soccer. So there's a few journeymen out there, but yeah, you're right. They're few and far between, and the majority stand out in the lot.
Yeah, no, but there are guys, like there are USL players that make, maybe $10,000-$12,000 there in a season, maybe 15 if they're lucky. Then they play indoor, they make 10,000, so they're now up to 25, and then they do a couple camps to make 5,000 or 6,000, so they're making 30. So they're scraping it together and they're staying in the game. And you might sort of scoff at that and say, well, how's that helping the national team down the line? Because that ultimately is what a lot of development folks will always focus on, is how is this going to affect the very tip of the pyramid. And what I'd say to that is, anytime you keep players in the game longer, you're benefiting the overall system, because they're increasing the level of competition across the board. And a lot of those.
Oh, sorry to interrupt. I just say their knowledge and experience is shared instead of forgotten. Is shared instead of just being with them somewhere on a couch or ruining the fact that they can't play anymore. It's still in the game. That knowledge is passed on.
Yeah, and what I was going to say just before there is that some of them will ultimately go at some point, everyone's athletic career ends eventually, right? So at some point, those guys at the end, if they've been in their game, if they've managed to scrape it together to their 27, 28, 29, or whatever, they'll go, well, I want to stay in the game, so now I'm going to get my coaching badges, or I'm going to get my referee badge. I'm going to do something that continues to benefit the system that way, just because of that love that they had for it. And as an entertainment product, you can't have too many of those. And if anyone wants to go out and check this game, I highly encourage it. I unfortunately won't be able to make it out. I would have. I wasn't in League One that day, but I am, so I can't get out there for it. But if there is another game out there and it works, I'll absolutely try and get out and check it out, because it is, ultimately, anytime you're kicking a ball with your foot towards a goal, I will watch at any level with any code of the game.
I remember a few years ago with beach soccer in Montreal. I think it was a World Cup. Actually, it was in Montreal, and it was interesting to see in different iteration of this game from Subboteo, Duane, to FIFA to arena soccer. I think every single part of the game has its place in what we call the culture as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, there's people out there that say they wish that the focus would be on futsal, and look, I agree. I think futsal needs a greater focus in the country. Any football hipster in Canada would say the same thing, and I count myself within that group. So yeah, obviously I'd like to see high-level professional futsal here eventually, but I don't think having an arena team necessarily precludes that. So get out there and support if you can. $20 is the cheap ticket. $50 gives you a scarf too. So if you can afford that, then great. And we wish them luck in Canada v Mexico. So hey, maybe we'll get an upset there. I think the Mexicans are probably the favorite, just based on my understanding of the sport. Love my 2 minutes of Wikipedia in there, but
just based on the history of the game itself as a whole, when you have those countries, usually Mexico's the favorite.
All right, shall we preview the weekend now?
Yeah, let's start with the Premier League. There's a few interesting matchup. One that is gathering my attention that will be difficult for me to watch because I'll be biking tomorrow as the Ride for Refuge. If you would like to sponsor me and give me a little push, a pat on the back to help me go a little faster on my bike tomorrow, and all that benefits the St. James Center, which I'm part of the board of directors. You can look on my social media to find a link to give me a little support. But tomorrow, 12:30 p.m., Chelsea, Man City.
Yeah, obviously that's the game of the weekend, and it's an intriguing one for sure. City has been rolling throughout October. We've talked about it at length a couple times now. The current October, I had a time machine apparently in September. The current September score is Manchester City 24, Manchester City opponents 1. So this is their test, though. This if they can do what they've done to other clubs in this matchup on Saturday at 12:30, then it's hard to argue that they aren't the favorite team overall right now. So, it's going to be one cracker of a game. Although usually when that happens, when you look at a game like that and you say it's going to be one cracker of a game, usually what happens is it's a dull 0-0. So we'll see. And certainly Chelsea has it within them to set up to play a dull 0-0 against a team like City as well. So be careful getting too hyped about it. But if you, are just looking for goals, then maybe not the one to. But if you're someone who loves a chess match, then this one should be a very, very intriguing game.
Yeah, after the big victory in Madrid earlier this week, the first team to beat Atletico in their new stadium, Chelsea at home at the Bridge against Man City. Chelsea would want to avenge that week 1 loss. That opening season defeat is the difference and why they're not top of the league. And with a victory over Man City, at least they bridge that gap with this.
For sure. In terms of the rest of the schedule on the weekend, it's a bit interesting that the early game, Huddersfield Spurs, Huddersfield's come out a little bit better off the hop than we thought. Spurs kind of, I don't know, they sputtered a bit, but maybe they've turned it around. Harry Kane with the hat trick midweek. It's a lot to like there for that. So we'll see what that one turns out to. But in terms of your 10 o'clock games, the one that I'm oddly interested in is Watford West Brom, and that's because Watford, other than that City thrashing, and everyone's getting by City, as we said, has just very sneakily sort of shown to be maybe that team this year that's going to step up and be like, wow, they're that high. Maybe even challenge for that 7th place, which could be a Europa spot, and that would be a tremendous accomplishment for them.
I've been surprised I didn't just stay in the Premier League over the last 2 years. Like, in our minds, when they were promoted, we're like, yeah, it's going to be difficult for them to stay. They find a way to stay. Yes, there was terrible teams. Sunderland was terrible last year. Fine. But still, it sneaks in, and like you mentioned, I wouldn't be surprised to see them closer to 10th and maybe higher than that than relegation.
No, for sure. Well, like I said, they're 6th right now, and that's kind of going to be surprising. Well, they're tied with Liverpool and Spurs. So, hey, you've got to like that in points in the border, points in the pocket, as I always say. 1 point up in Arsenal, and I'm sure long-term Watford fans have got to be loving that. But Huddersfield 9 points in 8th place too. It's early days, so we'll see whether the cream does rise. In terms of, I'm looking at the table right now, and Leicester back down, struggling again after the championship season a couple of years ago. They looked good against Liverpool at times, and then terrible against Liverpool at times. So we'll see whether they can handle that one out there. But this is just a very, very intriguing Premier League season. Additional year that goes by, this Premier League gets top to bottom, deeper, and more parity sort of emerges. And it's starting to almost look like MLS when you've got 10 teams within 2 points of relegation right now. And that's craziness.
And on Sunday, Arsenal, Brighton, Newcastle, Liverpool, Everton, Burnley. I'm interested in Newcastle, Liverpool. I would be surprised at St. James Park if Newcastle can actually get a result and maybe even a win against Liverpool, the way Newcastle's been playing this year, but last year too. Like, under Benitez, the fact that they're back up, they literally changed their mentality, philosophy on the pitch after going down, rebuilding to come back up. And so far, it has panned out. It's a strong test against Liverpool at home, but I wouldn't be surprised to see the Magpies pull it.
And Rafa's going to be motivated, Dame. I don't know how much motivation of a manager really matters, but nonetheless, it certainly will be interesting to see Rafa back at Liverpool. And maybe I heard a conversation in one of the podcasts I listened to where they were discussing whether Rafa is in fact underrated. And what they were saying with that is, if you look at his record and you look at how successful he's been at the club he goes to, and he really has been, with the exception of Real Madrid, and Real Madrid was a complete zoo at the time he was there. He is a guy that really is quite good, but yet you don't necessarily hear his name attached to rumors of big openings when they come out. Like, for instance, no one's talking about Bayern Munich sweeping in to take him. So I don't know. Is Benitez, is he underrated in your mind?
Well, he has been. He has coached at the highest places. He coached Chelsea, Liverpool, Madrid, others as well, like many others. So I think he's underrated. I think we thought that the world of football have passed him by, but he might be still relevant more than we anticipated. I think might be a bit more precise than underrated, because he has been successful almost everywhere, and he has been just successful last year. It's just maybe we think, we always go on quick to the new and better things. We like the new shinier things, so we move on. But sometimes, like, a good coach is a good coach.
I think what I mean by underrated is when you think about it, you don't talk about him amongst the global elites, even though he has coached at Real Madrid. It was unsuccessful, as we say, perhaps his only unsuccessful stop. And again, the culture around Real Madrid.
Unsuccessful in the Real Madrid standards, successful for every other club in the entire world standards. Okay, almost.
Well, yeah, that goes without saying. Real Madrid don't win 3 trophies; it's unsuccessful. But precisely, but everywhere else, I mean, look, he was great at Liverpool. He has done wonders for Newcastle to take what I have said in the past should be a big club, and has fallen on basically hard times in the past. It's almost coming on to a decade now that they've sort of been up and down, but he has certainly got them back up with style last year, and so far so good in their return to the Premier League. And the Premier League's more valuable with Newcastle in it. I'm not someone who likes to see the big clubs go down. Other than one I can think of that I would, relish to.
Yeah, but that's
to
not gonna happen. Like it's never
probably
gonna
not.
happen.
But I dream of such things. That's why I play Football Manager. Sometimes I take them on and try and get them relegated. It gives me great joy, and that's a shameful thing. But nonetheless, I've got to be me. However, generally speaking, when the bigger clubs go down, I kind of hope they come straight back up. I'm glad to see Villa doing better this year and perhaps setting themselves up for a potential return. So that's and ultimately even Sunderland is a club that I don't want to see down too long because I think they have a great fan base and should be up in that top flight. The top flight is better. As great as we like Bournemouth and the Huddersfields when they come up, and there's always going to be room for clubs like that. I think there is an element of you want to see the biggest clubs with the biggest fan bases and the biggest sort of impact on the game playing at the highest levels as much as possible, I think.
I have to agree with you. All right, Duane, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, let's finish the show with MLS previews.
You are listening to Soccer Today. Follow us on Twitter at Soccer Today SPN and like our Facebook page, facebook.com/Sports Podcasting Network.
So, if you're a Montreal Impact fan and you still believe with an amazing turnaround, they can have a shot of making the playoffs, you kind of have to cheer for TFC on Saturday because you need TFC to beat the Red Bulls. And TFC, 2 games losing streak. Red Bulls at home. Red Bulls are not playing well lately as well. TFC should be able to get the job done.
And win will, in fact, of course, clinch the Supporters' Shield, which is only a conversation, I think, if the worst-case scenario happens for Toronto, the worst-case scenario, they were to lose a third straight game, and then you have Atlanta to beat New England and NYCFC to beat Chicago. That, in fact, would not only put the Supporters' Shield in doubt, it would start to maybe even put a bye in doubt, which is not something anyone wants to see. It's if they were to lose a third straight game, you're going to have conversations about, oh, here we go. It's Toronto sports about to crash out again. Everything looked perfect. And in some way, it'd be the most painful one of all because it no hint that it was going to happen.
The trauma isn't that far away, eh? The instinct of no offense to anybody with no offense with anybody with PTSD, but it's never far away when you lost for so long. The realization that we could be back there. Come on, let's win. Let's start winning again. Is never too far away. But New England, Atlanta's been fascinating to me over the last few weeks. What they're achieving and Tata Martino gambling on just making your best players play when they're available. Like, never mind the rest. Maybe we'll see some of them now, but never mind like playing too much. Just put your best players forward and make them score and make it good. And we've seen Atlanta been what I think I'm going to call it now, Duane. I think it's time now. The best ever team. Like, it's the 2017 Atlanta United edition.
Yeah, I mean, look, some old-time MLS observers are going to scream about the Chicago Fire in 1998. What I always say about that is they were an expansion team, but they were an expansion team in a league that was 2 years old. So, in reality,
an expansion team in an expansion league, like, yeah.
Yeah, technically DC United was an expansion team in 1996 too, right? So there you go. However, yeah, look, are they the best expansion team ever? Certainly the only conversation you're having is 2009 Seattle versus them, and they've surpassed 2009 Seattle in terms of their success. 2009 Seattle, for all of what they did, and I remember that team well, I don't think anyone was talking about them as potential champions this time of year, whereas Atlanta, I look at this league and I've got to, and I've turned around on this. I doubted them on the start of the year, and I doubted them simply because it's so many new pieces that were not that they were a new team, that the pieces were new to the league was why I doubted it, and it is a difficult league to adjust to. And the only caveat I'll give to this is that when the playoffs start, can a team that has never dealt with playoffs and the change of style and the way that a playoff intensity increases and the rules get laxer and things like that, and that second part might be their biggest Achilles heel, because these are guys that have generally come from leagues where kicking people in the legs is not, seen as quote unquote letting them play the games.
Sure, but I've seen players play in Argentina that does play for Atlanta that are kind of used to this. So, like, they might not be used to the format of MLS playoffs. They know what a cup game is. They know what no tomorrow soccer is. And I'm not even worried for Tata Martino. Oh, he has no MLS playoff experience. Maybe he has some cup experience. He has some World Cup experience. I'm not worried.
Well, the only thing I'll say to that, you're right. Yeah, obviously there's a high level manager that's managed it at the very, very highest levels of the league or of the world, I'd say. But the fact that he's not rotating the players right now does suggest a bit of naiveness is what I'm trying to say. The word that I've used there, what the hell I was trying to spit it in my head. But anyway, he's a bit naive in the sense that he's not rotating the players, and that might be what bites them in the playoffs more than anything else. So we'll see. Interesting matchup on Saturday with the revenge factor in there too. Although the way New England's playing right now,
they're gonna you can't fire back with blanks. Like, if you're getting attacked and you have only blanks, guess what? They're not gonna work.
I mean, it's embarrassing right now to lose 7-1 and 6-1 in MLS in 3 weeks, like 2 weeks apart. The players should be. It's shameful. Like, it ultimately is. Like, what's the old adage? But you can't trade away all your players. If I was New England, I'd be thinking about it, because they're clearly lying down right now. Like, they changed the manager and they still, the bed? Come on. Like, that's not on the managers. That's on the players. In MLS, if you lose 7-1, you lose 6-1 in, like I said, 3 weeks, and within 3 weeks, an effort issue in my mind. There's something more going on there.
And to Orlando, a team that's basically eliminated from the playoffs for a while now, and that has a quite difficult 2017 season on and off the field, and just puts a trashing on New England like this. Yeah, that was embarrassing.
Yeah, like, again, I don't often say the players quote unquote aren't trying, but I think some of the players out there might not be trying at the highest level, aren't being fully professional, because I watched some really bad MLS soccer for a long time. Really, really bad, like terrible teams. I recently bought a PS3, Kevin, and I have FIFA 2012 and 2013, which means I have quite possibly the worst Toronto FC teams to play with.
Darcy's Franks, Teddy Cooperman, injured,
yeah,
but still.
Cooperman was a good player. Like, I will defend Danny Cooperman to death.
Yes, but by himself, what do you want to do? Like, it's Danny Cooperman against the world.
I don't, because I'm so bad at it. But I did actually manage to lose with Manchester City against that TFC team, which amused me on some level. But anyway, you look at those players and they're like, oh my God, how did they do anything? They don't even look like an MLS team. The point I'm making with this, though, is that as bad as that team was, as bad as that stretch of MLS teams were, back-to-back seasons under 30 points, they never lost games in 3 weeks by a combined score of 13-2. That didn't happen. Like, that's not something that should ever happen in this league. And it's embarrassing that it's happening to a team in New England that has some high-end talent there. Like, guys that would be valuable across the league. Like,
Kai Kamara, for once.
Levin, who would generate a lot of interest in a trading situation, although I've always had a little bit of concern about his professionalism. And maybe that's unfair. I'm basing that on one decision he made on Twitter, but back when he was with Vancouver briefly. So we'll see there. But at any rate, look, this is too much conversation for what is.
It's way too much for New England. Yeah, they don't deserve that much time. Chicago NYCFC is an interesting game to me too. On Saturday at 8:30 p.m. It's Chicago wants to get back to where they used to be a few weeks ago. Atlanta's been rolling on and overtaking them, and now we're more expecting Atlanta to continue to climb, but Chicago, with the win at home against NYCFC, gets themselves a lot closer to NYCFC and a potential bye. So this game has some big playoff implication. Maybe not to catch Toronto, because I still feel it's going to be difficult, but for Chicago, they still have a bye in their crosshairs. So if they are able to get a win at home against NYCFC, it will go a long way.
For sure. And the other game I'll be watching with great interest is that Sunday game at 1 o'clock. Unfortunately, I won't be watching it with great interest. I'll be following it with great interest because, again, I'm working League One Ontario at 1 o'clock on Sunday. So there you go. Join me there if you wish. I'll be at Monarch Park this week. There you go. Anyway, it'll be an interesting one because Seattle, I'm curious to see, and I do believe that they are the team that is to beat in the West still. To be the best, you have to beat the best, right? And Seattle right now is on top. I think that they probably ultimately should be the team that should be aspiring to finish on top of the Western standings at the end of the day. Dallas, I'll be watching that game interestingly too because a lot on the line there. Dallas, can they turn it back around and get back consistently to where they were? They're playing Orlando at 4 o'clock, the opening game of the weekend. So the first and last game of the weekend are the two other ones that I'm going to highlight there. But ultimately, what is on my mind most of all, Kevin, is the possibility of Toronto FC winning a trophy with a win at home. That's something that we've seen before in MLS, winning one of MLS's major trophies. The last time that happened, it ended in tears. This is the second chance and the first time in 12 or 10 months for them to it's not the trophy, the main trophy, but it is the second biggest trophy, and they have an opportunity to win it, which is a surreal situation. Me walking into BMO Field.
Of course, if they win it on Saturday, there won't be any celebration or anything. This will happen on October 15th against Montreal. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and well, the reason for that is
just to piss off Montreal fans.
Pardon me. No, it's nothing to do with Montreal. It has to do with the nature of the trophy, and we can laugh, and I'm sure that Montreal or that Toronto fans or Toronto FC itself is a bit amused that it will happen against Montreal to get the job done, but the actual literal reason, because if you look back in the history of the First Shield presentations, they generally happen immediately after they're clinched, but they can't, because getting the trophy over the border, and I've been told this, getting the trophy across the border is a procedure that you can't really just do overnight. You can't show up with the damn Supporters Shield in your car and expect to get across the Canadian border. It has too much value, and the league, MLS, does not actually control it. The Supporters Association still does, and so they don't have the same pull that the league was. Like, you could just show up with the Eastern Conference final or the trophy or the MLS Cup final because you're Major League Soccer, and you get to the border and you go, we're Major League Soccer and this is who we are and here's our paperwork and all that. But like a bunch of soccer hooligans show up at the border with, a $15,000 valuable trophy in their hands.
Higher than that.
They're probably they might lose the trophy, so they've got to go through some legal hoops to get there. So there will be an honor guard on the next home game is what the arrangement is with the Canadian team. So that's what there, and it just so happens that honor guard would happen against Montreal, which might make the Montreal. It would probably
that will sum up Montreal's season. That will sum up. Like, yeah, you got some good players, but you have to give the guard of honor to Toronto. Yeah, and he poor Montreal. If you're a Montreal fan traveling to that game, you might want to not go to the away section because you'd be marshaled in, and you would be forced to watch the presentation. So that would be something that you'd be stuck in there for a long time. Vancouver, in the very top of that stadium, miserably cold, I'm sure. Yeah, SKC Vancouver as well. Interesting matchup, top of the Western Conference. Can Vancouver bounce back from their midweek loss to Seattle? Duane, I wish you a good soccer weekend, and with the return of the Premier League and the rest of the world of football, weekends are pretty much filled with soccer.
I'm still looking forward to waking up at 7:30 tomorrow and just sitting here watching soccer until I leave to watch soccer. It's going to be a big day.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, I'm going to watch soccer until I have to go watch soccer again.
Yes, exactly. And then I'm going to go on Sunday and watch more soccer. So there you go.
And we'll be
Awesome
back
weekend.
Monday to talk about soccer. You can follow Duane on Twitter at 24th Minute and myself at Kev Laramee. And as always, on Monday, we'll be back. And until then, have a great soccer.
You can find the podcast version of all the shows we do on iTunes, Apple Podcast, Google Play Store, TuneIn Radio, and anywhere you get your podcast.